Welcome back. Chapter 19. In the end, it wasn't Cassie who broke first, but Ryan. I've been sitting in my room most of the day, my phone in my hand, willing Dean to call me back. When my phone finally rang, I didn't even check to see who was calling before I answered. Hello, I said, voice just this side of frantic. There was a pause on the other end, the muffling sound of voices. Greer? Ryan? I was surprised I pulled the phone away from my face, double-checked the screen to be sure. Yeah, hey, he said, another pause. Listen, I feel shitty about how the three of us left things. Cassie does too. Yeah, I said, relief spooling outward from the tight center of my chest. I'd been more than halfway convinced I might never hear his voice again. Same, I'm glad you called. Ryan huffed out a laugh. I wasn't sure you'd answer. Come on, I said. Have I ever not answered for you or Cassie, no matter how mad I was? Fair enough. I'm still over at Chet's, but I was hoping maybe the three of us could meet up tonight. Clear the air? That sounds good, I said. I'll call Cassie. I was thinking we'd grab dinner. Chet had me working through lunch and I'm starving. Doesn't sound like Chet to miss a meal. It was still awkward between us, the conversation stiff with tension, but we were making an effort. Ryan laughed again, a little easier this time. He's very focused today. Let me get a hold of Cassie. But does 6 o'clock work for you? Can we make it 7? I didn't want to tell him this next part, but I also didn't want to keep lying. It only made everything worse when the truth inevitably came out. Yesterday by the pond with Dean still cutting deep. I need to go see Dean real quick. Ryan sucked in a breath, but, to his credit, kept his opinion to himself. Okay, he said finally. I found something in Eliza's thing. I'll tell you guys about it at dinner, but I want to show Dean, see what he thinks. Greer, I know you don't approve of me hanging out with him, I said, but you have to trust me on this one, Ryan. You and Cassie both. I'm not stupid and I'm not crazy, and this could be something important. Neither one of us ever thought you were stupid or crazy, not for a single second. His voice was harsh and low. I'd hurt him simply by voicing the suspicion, the secret fear I'd carried since Eliza's death that somehow I'd come completely off the rails and everyone could see it but me. We're worried, that's all. What kind of friends would we be if we weren't? Ryan said. Do what you need to do, okay? Okay, I said, voice hoarse. Text us when you're free to meet up. We'll be waiting. Okay. The next time I called Dean, 10 minutes after hanging up the phone with Ryan, he answered, his voice clipped and cautious. You need to stop calling me. I know, you said you were done, I told him, talking too fast, afraid he'd hang up if I didn't get the words out quickly enough, but I found some photos of Eliza's stuff that my mom had packed away. I want you to see them. What kind of photos? I lowered my voice, even though I was alone in my room. Ones of Roy and me that summer, taken with a phone, I'm pretty sure. Dean sucked in a breath, releasing it slowly. You should show them to Baker, he said finally. He'll know what to do with them. I gripped the phone tighter, my stomach nodding. Dean, please, will you meet me? Take a look at them to see what you think? I'll go to Baker afterward, I promise. When he didn't respond, I forged ahead. I'm sorry, I managed. For everything, I'm sorry. My voice broke and I jerked the phone upward, hiding my tears. Fine, he said. Meet me at the refinery. I passed right by it on my way home from the farm. Okay, I'll leave now. Thank you. I hung up before he could change his mind and scrabbled off the bed, shoving my feet into my shoes and the photos into my back pocket. There was no other cars on the road, just a lone hawk soaring along beside me, then swooping down on what was probably an unsuspecting field mouse. I watched as he took off again, something clenched in his talons. By the time I turned down the road to the refinery, daylight was seeping away and the building looked bigger and uglier backlit by the setting sun. Broken windows and chipped concrete more prominent, barbed wires atop the link glittering slightly in the faded light. Dean's SUV was parked out front, but he wasn't waiting inside it like I'd expected. I turned in my seat and wrestled my jacket out from under the box of Joanne's Sawtell's junk I still needed to take to Goodwill. The evening air was already turning cold, autumn barreling fast towards winter when the sun wasn't shining. As I walked toward the fence, something nigged at me again, a tiny pinch at the base of my skull. I stood still for a second, closed my eyes, willing it to form into an actual thought. But it continued to elude me. The harder I reached for it, the faster it receded. Frustrated, I stomped across the gravel and shimmied underneath the chain link fence, barely avoiding snagging my jacket on the metal in my haste. I was still moving fast, distracted by what I couldn't put my mental finger on when I walked into the refinery. It was gloomy inside, almost dark, and Dean wasn't there, or at least not anywhere I could see. My feet stopped. I listened in the growing dark, waiting for something I couldn't name. I should have known right then. Later, I would go over and over it, wondering how things might have been different if I hadn't been so slow. Dean? I called, but not loud, not a whisper, but most definitely not a shout, like I was afraid of what might hear me, what answers might come out of the shadow. Dean, are you here? From above me, the sound of something scuffling along the ground, and then Dean's voice floating down. Hey, I'm up here. His voice sounded pinched, worried, and the drumbeat of fear inside of me pulsed louder. Up where? I called, still not moving. Up here, he answered. He beamed the flashlight from his phone down towards me and back up, where he was standing on a step, high up by the catwalk. You need to see this. What? I asked, but I was already moving, watching myself take the steps one at a time, climbing higher and higher. I passed the landing on the second level and kept going, focusing on Dean's flashlight above me. When I reached the last step up to the highest landing, the catwalk to my left fading into the darkness. Dean was waiting. His hand was down by his side, the flashlight pointed at the floor so that I could barely see his face. What did you want to show me? I asked, not moving any closer, one hand curled tight around the stair railing. I didn't know why I was afraid. I only knew that I was. He raised his head and looked at me. I'm sorry, he said, voice strained. I tried to. The darkness behind him shifted, a shadow, a shape, familiar and heartbreaking and impossible. It all hit me at once, the things I seen but hadn't put together, the things I known deep down but hadn't wanted to acknowledge. The photos hidden in a romance novel, the box of old books in the back of my car, a boy who lived to be needed. No, I said. One foot slipped backwards on the steps and Dean reached out for me, caught my hand and steadied me. He didn't let go, squeezed my fingers tight. No, I said again, like maybe if I kept saying it, I could somehow make it untrue. It's okay, Greer. It's going to be okay. Ryan stepped out from behind Dean, his voice calm, a gun held lazily in his hand as if he'd forgotten it was there. What? My head was buzzing, my heart tripping, my voice floating away like helium from a spent balloon. The only thing keeping me grounded, teetered to this moment, was Dean's hand in mine. I don't... Come up here, Ryan said, holding out his hand. I took it automatically with my free one, without thinking, the way I had 1,000 times before. Together, he and Dean helped me onto the platform, but when I was steady, I dropped Ryan's hand, took a closer look to Dean. What are you doing here? I asked. What's going on? Why do you have a gun? But I knew all the answers already. Felt foolish somehow for having asked the questions. He followed me, Dean said, voice hard. Right? Ryan nodded, not looking at Dean, only at me. When you called, I knew you found those photos. Do you know how many times I looked for them over the years? Every time I was home making excuses to help your mom clean, get stuff boxed up in Eliza's room. He shook his head. Where were they? It felt like he was speaking a foreign language, one I'd never heard before. Every word taking an eternity to sort itself out inside my head. My own response came out delayed and hollow, the sound of my voice coming from very far away. In a box in the attic, inside one of your mom's old romance novels. The detail I've been missing finally clicked into place. Ryan laughed a little. That must have been how Eliza got them out of my house right in front of me. You know my mom would loan a book to anyone. His face sobered. I never meant for you to see them. I I don't understand. Panic buzzed low and insistent at the base of my spine, and I wondered if I was in shock or if I was dreaming somehow, still tucked safely back in my bed. But Dean's hand in mine was warm and real. The dark of the refinery pressed in on all sides, the smell of damp and dirt heavy in the air. He was following you and Roy that summer, Dean said, stalking you. I wasn't stalking her, Ryan bit out. For fuck's sakes, Greer, I was worried about you. You've been acting weird for weeks, so goddamn grouchy, arguing with us about everything. And then suddenly, you seemed happier, but you were never around. You gone from irritable and unpredictable to secretive and quiet. None of it was like you, so I followed you. I wanted to see where you were going, make sure you were safe. You had no right to do that, I said. It wasn't any of your business. I never asked you to take care of me. You didn't have to ask, Ryan said, just this side of a shout. That's what friends do, Greer. We look out for each other. You've got a seriously fucked up idea of friendship, Dean said. You! Ryan raised the gun and pointed it at Dean. Shut the hell up. You're not a part of this. I squeezed Dean's hand, willing him to be quiet. I wanted Ryan's gaze off of Dean. I wanted that gun lowered. But why the photos? I asked, confused, still churning inside my brain, making it hard for me to focus on anything but the gun in Ryan's hand. What was the point? I resisted the urge to shake my head in hopes the movements would sort out all the scrambled pieces in my mind, slot everything back in a way that made sense. Ryan shrugged. I don't honestly know. At first, I took them as proof of what was going on. I guess I thought if you didn't stop, come to your senses, I'd send them anonymously to your parents. Let them know what you're doing. The huge mistake you were making with that guy. They'd put a stop to it. He wasn't a good person, Greer. You have to understand that by now. As he spoke, the gun hand fell, all of his attention centered on me. I felt Dean tense next to me and fear strangled my throat. I crushed his fingers in mine, trying to keep him still, but he pulled away from me. He lunged forward, quick and silent, hands already grappling for the gun. I heard a grunt of pain, the sound of panting breath, Ryan's shout. A blur of bodies and a single gunshot roaring through the darkness. Dean Buckle went down so fast I couldn't even tell where he'd been shot, although the front of his shirt was already wet with blood. I screamed, tried to bend towards him, but Ryan kicked him hard, and then again. Dean slipped over the edge of the stairs, his body bouncing against the metal risers as he fell. I looked down at his body at the bottom of the steps, twisted and still, waiting for him to pop up right. waiting for the joke, the laugh, the announcement that this was all the world's most fucked up joke. Ding! I screamed when he failed to move, my voice echoing against the vast expanse of concrete. I took a step forward and Ryan's hand clapped down hard on my upper arm, dragging me back onto the platform. It was all suddenly, painfully, horribly real. Shit, 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 Ryan chanted. I didn't want to do that. I didn't mean to do that. He shouldn't have gone for the gun. He put himself between me and the stairs, pacing slightly in front of me. We need to call an ambulance, I said, my voice a high, fast babble. He needs help. We're not calling anybody, Ryan said. There's nothing they can do for him anyway. And we need to talk. Talk? There's nothing to talk about? You shot him, Ryan. I started forward and he raised the gun again, not pointing it at me exactly, but reminding me it was there. I stopped moving, not really believing he would shoot me, but before this moment, I would have put money on him not being able to shoot anyone. Okay, you want to talk? Let's talk, I said, voice almost a shout. You were responsible for Eliza and Travis, weren't you? The answer was right in front of me, but I needed to hear him say the words. And you killed Dylan and Addie too. Ryan held my gaze. Yes. He had the audacity to look sad, regret cutting across his features. But Greer, I did it for you. The noise that came out of me didn't sound human. The wail of a wild animal caught in a trap. The mourning sound of some creature being ripped apart and left for dead. I sank to my knees, then bent forward at the waist, covered my face with both hands and wept. I heard Ryan move, felt his body next to mine, one of his arms going around me, pulling me into his side. Shh, he said, I'm right here. You're okay. It's okay. And for a few minutes, I let myself believe that. Let my body sink into his. Let myself forget Dean at the base of the stairs. Forget what Ryan had done, what I had caused. I cried and howled and pretended it had nothing to do with the man who'd held me, the boy I loved like a brother for virtually all my life. But I could only lie to myself for so long. Eventually, the tears slowed, and Ryan's arm turned into a vice around me, the smell of blood wafting upward on the cold night air. I pushed away from him, twisting out of his grip. I levered myself to stand, and Ryan did the same, the two of us facing off in the dark. How could you? I said, the words a harsh raps. I didn't want to. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But Eliza found those photos. She was helping my mom around the house one afternoon, sorting through her crap like usual, and I left the photos out on my desk. The one time I forgot to hide them. He shook his head. She confronted me about them, but she wouldn't give them back. I tried to explain myself, tried to make her understand how worried I was, but she didn't care about anything I had to say. She only cared about me following you. She was going to tell you, make it seem like I've been doing something wrong. You have been doing something wrong, I screamed. You were my best friend, Ryan yelled back. If Eliza had told you, you never had looked at me the same way again. I would have understood, I told him, if you explained it to me. But even as I said the words, I didn't know if they were true. Even if I'd forgiven him, he was right. He would have become someone different to me. There would have been no way to go back. I couldn't risk it, Ryan said, voice dropping. Don't you remember what it felt like when we were that age? How much we needed each other? Nothing felt more important than that. I couldn't lose you. What would I have left? Almost against my will, all of my teenage angst and bravado came rushing back. How my friends had been my entire world, more important to me than my own family. How every emotion, good or bad, felt like it had the power to change the world. I had been convinced no high the entire rest of my life would ever feel as good. No low would ever hurt as much. I had no frame of reference, no years of life against which to judge my experiments. Consequences were distant, cloudy threats, something to be worried about later, if at all. If someone or something had threatened my relationship with Ryan and Cassie, how far might I have gone to protect it? Not as far as Ryan had, but part of me could see how easily he gotten there, could remember how painfully young 16 was, and how choices that now seemed ridiculous and dangerous had made a perfect kind of sense back then. You didn't do it for me, I said, needing more than anything for that to be true. You did it to protect yourself. Ryan shook his head. It was for you. You weren't safe around Roy Greer. I couldn't let you hang out with him and not make sure you were okay. He was dangerous and he wasn't going to let you go without a fight. Bullshit, I shot back. I was already ending things before Eliza died. That may be what you thought, but he wasn't on the same page. He thought the two of you were real, if you can believe that shit. What did you say to him? I asked, my heart cracking open. For almost half my life, all I felt for Roy was hatred, morphing him into some brain-dead, one-dimensional monster in my mind. But Dean had made me remember his human side, the guy who showed me how to funnel my anger, who stole money and risked his job to buy me an ice cream cone, the one who smiled slow and tentative every time I climbed into his truck. It hadn't absolved him, but it had turned him back into a person. And now Ryan was here, calmly giving voice to all the ways he manipulated Roy, used him for our own gain. It was still true that he pulled the trigger, but both of us, we put the gun in his hand. I wasn't planning on telling him anything. I barely knew the guy. Befriended him a little to keep tabs on him is all. It didn't take much. Man, I never met somebody so desperate for a friend. He was going to be a problem once you dumped him completely, but I figured we crossed that bridge. But then Eliza found those fucking photos, told me she had to tell you that it was up to you to decide what to do about it. He ran his free hand through his hair. She didn't even care about you and Roy. That's what she should have been upset about. But all she cared about were the photos, me following you around. She had it completely backwards. He took a deep breath. I had to get Roy away from you and stop her. You get that, right? I didn't say anything. I slipped my hand into my jacket pocket while he talked, fingers grazing the edges of my phone. Take your hand out your pocket, he told me, and my heart sank. He waited until I'd done as he instructed before he went on. But I never meant for Roy to kill anyone, I swear to God. I swear to God, Greer. I told him that Eliza was the one keeping you two apart, that she found out and threatened to tell your parents. I thought he'd just scare her a little, maybe shove her around. Then she'd know that he was the real problem all along, not those photos, not me. Did you know he brought a gun? I asked quietly. A choke sound burst out of Ryan. Yeah, but I never thought he'd use it. I shook my head. You knew. You knew how much he needed to believe someone cared about him. Fresh tears rolled down my cheeks. You knew what he'd do. It wasn't my fault, Ryan said. He wasn't a good guy. Who's a good guy? I asked quietly. You? You manipulated someone who didn't have the smarts or the will to resist you. You were responsible for the deaths of your friends. Then you killed 2 more people. Why Addie and Dylan? I thought of Addie's mom baking pie, then slipping into her hot bath at night to grieve, and more tears fell. Ryan winced, like he thought of Addie and Dylan hurt him in a way that Eliza and Travis, who had been his friends, did not. Or maybe it was more painful because with Addie and Dylan, he'd been the one to actually pull the trigger. No way to make that someone else's fault. That was hard, he said. I hated doing it, especially to Addie. I didn't know her, but she seemed like a good kid. I picked Dylan because he was an asshole, oops, never could keep his mouth shut about how much he hated Ludlow and everyone in it. He shrugged. If someone had to go, it might as well have been him. I remember what Dean had said about collateral damage and cold-hearted bastards. Still, even now, I was having trouble reconciling that person with Ryan, who had always been one of the best, warmest people I knew. Are you listening to yourself? I asked, trying to justify what you did. What was any of it for? It was for you. His voice rose, his hand thrown up in the air, my eyes following the arch of the gun in his finger. Have you even been listening to me? I never would have done it, but you needed me to, Greer. I had to bring you back here. You were suffering in Chicago. Cassie told me the last time she went to visit you that you were a shell of yourself. I couldn't let that go on. I thought maybe after the execution you'd snap out of it, but you didn't. And then, after Bethany and I split, it felt like a sign. I decided to move back here, and it seemed like everything was coming full circle. The three of us. We needed to be together again. That's the last time you were happy. The last time I was too, really. I knew if you came back here, you'd be okay. He took a step forward, his expression tender. You needed to come home. I coughed out a disbelieving laugh. Did you ever think about just asking me? Ryan raised his eyebrows. If I had, would you have come? He didn't bother waiting for me to answer because we both knew the answer. And deep down, you were waiting for it. Because the minute you heard about Dylan and Addie, you knew, didn't you? You knew it was a message, and you couldn't get here fast enough. When your mom said you were on your way back, I'm sure I'd done the right thing. Come back. The horrible part was that he was right. He knew me so well, knew exactly how to reel me in and pull me home, knew exactly what message to send in order to get the results he wanted. He already done it once before. The hearts? I breathed out. You drew a heart on Addie like the one you left for me. He nodded. I knew it was a risk leaving that heart on Addie's arm, potentially tying the murders together, but no one knew about the paper heart but you and me. I drew the heart on Addie to remind me what it was all for, that sometimes we have to do hard things to help the people we love. I made it a little easier in the end. I could barely speak. Picturing 16-year-old Ryan cutting the red paper, gluing on the dolly, writing those words, an adult Ryan tracing a bloody heart on Addie's skin. I didn't understand how such goodness and such madness could coexist inside one person. How could you be sure, I asked slowly, that no one knew about the paper heart but us? Ryan shrugged. I just was. Because you knew what the heart would do to me? I said, voice rising. You knew how guilty it would make me feel? You wanted me to feel responsible, to make sure I stopped asking questions and kept my mouth shut. No, I was trying to make you feel better, let you know it had happened for a reason. But he couldn't meet my gaze, his eyes shifting away. You should have left it alone, Greer. Now look at you. Look at this mess. Look at us. He sounded sad and tired suddenly. A tear snaked down his cheek. Why couldn't you have left it alone? Because she's my sister, I said, stepping towards him. Because I woke up every day choking on the knowledge that maybe I'd done something or said something that made Roy kill her. Because I knew he hadn't done it on his own, and it wasn't fair that he was the only one punished for it. Ryan was looking right at me, still and listening. It was the first time since I stepped into the refinery that I recognized him. Don't you think if I could rewind time back to the very beginning, I'd pick a different path? His voice was quiet, pained, all of his earlier blusters and excuses worn away. If I'd known how much it would hurt you, hurt all of us, but when you had another chance, you chose to do it again. I said to Addie and Dylan. I didn't though, he said, have a choice. It's like I started walking this road when I was too young to realize what a shitty route it was. one with no off ramps, no good places to turn around, so my only choice was to keep moving forward. I shook my head. You could have stopped, Ryan. You could have just stopped. He blew out a shuddered breath. If I stopped, then the whole thing would have been pointless. Because if I couldn't help you, then what would it have been all for, Greer? If you're not safe and happy, if our friendship isn't solid, then Eliza died for nothing. Then every step, every horrible thing I did would have been for nothing. I had to keep going. I had to. His face twisted, and he looked so much like the Ryan I remembered, the boy who wept when his father left, the one who'd always been able to make me laugh, the one who loved me even at my most unlovable. My arms started to reach for him, and I forced them back to my side. And it worked, he said, his lips kicking up a lopsided grin, even as tears ran down his face. For a little while. He closed his eyes and bent down, set the gun gently on the ground between us. As soon as he straightened, I threw myself forward, scrambling for the gun. I heard him move, and my whole body tensed. But the sound didn't come closer, and I risked a look upward, even as my fingers closed around the gun and I grasped it tight in my hand. Ryan was at the railing, his back to the rusted metal, hands raised in surrender. I'm not going to hurt you, he said. I could never hurt you, Greer. Don't you know that by now? You did hurt me, though, I said on a sob, pushing myself to my feet. You ruined my whole life. I didn't, he shook his head. You have a life. You just haven't been living it. That was your choice, not mine. It's all in front of you. Your road is still wide open, Greer, but you have to want it. I should shoot you right now, I told him. Even as I said the words, I felt how easy it would be, how satisfying, exacting revenge for all the people no longer here to do it for themselves. But my grip on the gun had already loosened, my fingers not quite touching the trigger. You're not going to shoot me. Ryan kept his gaze on me, lifted one leg over the railing, the rusted metal groaned under his weight. What are you doing? In my head, this was supposed to go a different way. Does that ever happen to you? You've got something all worked out, then life comes along and shits on it. Yes, I said in a whisper, pretty much every day. I thought if you ever found out, you'd understand. Find a way to forgive me. That's the hope I've been living with these past few months. The only way I could even stand to look at myself in the mirror anymore. I kept holding on to the idea that together we'd get past it somehow. Somehow, his voice broke. But we can't, can we? I shook my head, unable to speak. He drew his other leg over the railing, his hands gripping the metal, all that kept him from plummeting backwards into the darkness. I took a step closer. Please, don't. Can you honestly see me in prison? He said. Come on. I wouldn't last a week. His voice was light, almost amused, and for a split second, it felt like one of our normal conversations, banter as easy as breathing. My love for him rose hot and bitter inside me, and my vision telescoped crazily, trying to bring him into focus. I wanted so badly for this not to be happening. If you really are my friend, if you really love me, please don't do this. My words came out shaky and weak, and I lowered the gun. I finally fully understood Dean, how he could still love Roy even after everything. How awful it must have been to watch him die. I can't take any more. I'm sorry, Greer, Ryan said, but I can't take any more either. He let go of the railing. I ran forward, throwing myself at him. Rusted metal tore along my inner arm, pain flaring. His face a pale oval rushing away from me into the shadows. His outstretched arms right there, so close, fingers brushing as he fell. I wanted to kill him. I wanted to save him. In the end, I couldn't do either. And that's the end of chapter 19. Oh my goodness. it was Ryan and Roy. So whoever chose Ryan first, which I think it was Jack, was the first person who said it was Ryan, but she couldn't put her fingers on it. You were on point. Ooh, I am shocked because I totally didn't have Ryan on the list. And all the pieces kind of fit now. One thing I didn't know is that I didn't know that Ryan befriended Roy. So that's who Roy was loyal to, was Ryan, because Roy wanted friends. Man, you got to be careful with wanting friends, because people come into your life for all the wrong reasons, and look what happened. Wow. And he did it all for Greer. So even though he said he wanted her happy, I kind of think it sounded like he was obsessed with her. And he had to have had something going on in his brain, because for him to say that he did it to make her happy, to have her life, but he took her sister. Like, how those two connect in his brain? People be thinking some things, but yeah. So it's really not much to say. This book, I mean, there's one chapter left, so I'll save what else I have to say about this book. But that it took 19 chapters of suspense to find out who did it, I think this book was well written. But I'll give my full review when I'm done. So one chapter left. I shall see y'all in the next chapter. Bye for now.